Sound the alarms, everyone, because Nintendo Switch 2 may not be released until March 2025 at the absolute soonest. This is according to Chris Dring over at GameIndustry.biz, who specifically states that they've talked to a bunch of developers and none of them are expecting it this financial year. In fact, they've apparently been told to not expect it this financial year, which, remember, for Nintendo ends on March 31st, 2025, or whatever year we're talking about, which in this case is 2025. So, what this means is that it's going to disappoint a lot of people who are hoping Nintendo is going to replicate the release schedule of the original Switch, the one that we've been stuck with for, 7 years now, with a reveal in October, with a release in early March. And it seems like that's probably not going to be the case this time. Now, we only know based on this report for sure that it's probably not coming out by March, but I'm also thinking at this point that it's probably going to be revealed later than we think too. And I'm going to give you 6 reasons why I think it's going to be revealed later, probably next year at this point. And here's why. Here are the 6 reasons. Nintendo has an extremely strong lineup still for a console in its final year. Let's take a look real quick. For one, we have a new Zelda coming, accompanied by a brand new Nintendo Switch model, being the Nintendo Switch Lite Hyrule Edition on September 26th. Next, we have a brand new Mario Party not long after. Then we have a brand new Mario & Luigi the following month. Going into next year, we have Donkey Kong Country Returns HD in January, followed by 2 other 2025 games we know about so far, being Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Pokemon Legends Z-A, or Pokemon Legends Z, as I like to call it. So as one who's lived through every Nintendo console so far, what I can tell you is this is a shockingly strong lineup for a system that is, again, likely in its final solo year. Now, granted, it may not look quite as impressive depending on the run-up to the Switch 2, but for now, for an end-of-a-year calendar cycle, this is looking really good. And my thinking is that with the holidays typically being Nintendo's strongest sales, with the Christmas season being the strongest sales Nintendo has throughout the year, they're not going to want to dampen those in any way, including by prematurely showing off the Switch 2. Now, I say prematurely, knowing that they could still have a relatively early launch, and it may not be premature, but at this point I'm thinking the Switch 2 launch is going to be later than we think, which also again means I think we're not going to be seeing Switch 2 at all this year, because they don't want to affect these holiday sales, especially for a brand new Switch model. Why would you buy a Switch Lite if you know a Switch 2 is just around the corner? Now, obviously I know some people would anyway, and not everyone's going to buy Switch 2 as soon as it's released, of course, but even still, Nintendo, I would think, is not going to want to affect the sales to whatever degree that they can by not announcing Switch 2 at this point, especially because we don't even know what state the Switch 2 is in. It may not be, ready, whether in terms of hardware fully, even though I imagine it's probably going to be manufactured soon if it hasn't already begun. But then there's a library aspect of it as well, which is, what's that library going to look like? Are the games ready? Do they have enough games ready? Switch 1 launched with an extremely strong year 1 lineup, and they're probably going to want to replicate that for year 2. And if the games aren't ready, then the system's not going to be ready. And I think that's where we're at. So I'm thinking at this point that we're not going to see Switch 2 at all this year, because this is just too good of a lineup. This is too good. Nintendo has fixed one of their historic problems, being the final year typically sucks for their consoles, and this year isn't so far. It may not be quite to your cup of tea, but in a broad sense, this is really good. And again, we still know of 3 games at least so far going into next year, even if I still think Metroid Prime 4 could possibly be a cross-gen title, but I wouldn't bet on it. I think it is a possibility, and so that may not be a great indicator of the strength of the Switch if that ends up being the case. But that aside, you don't even need it, because again, everything else is looking really good. So I think, knowing Nintendo for as long as I have, I think it's likely we'll get a blowout of Switch 2 early next year. As I said earlier, Nintendo has already confirmed it will be by March 31st, so sometime between January and March, we'll get the blowout, and then I would guess it won't launch until at least 6 months later. I mean, I don't even think 2026 is off the table entirely, to be honest, but I do think 2025 is probably what's going to happen, but it's probably in the latter half of the year. And, I'm fine with it, because Switch still has a lot of games coming, and to be honest, I've not heard anything about Switch 2 based on rumors so far, which of course, who knows how accurate they are, that's really making me clamor for it. Yeah, it'll be in 4K, possibly. It'll have, it'll have better graphics, but I mean, look at some of these games here. Like, Zelda's not even taking full advantage of Switch as is. I mean, not to undersell what it is, but it's not a graphical showcase for the Switch, whereas Metroid Prime 4 actually kind of is. And that also speaks to the strength of how good the Switch looks currently, that I'm not personally feeling like I need need an upgrade. Now I'm hoping, of course, Switch 2 will actually show off more than just graphical prowess upgrades that will make me want it. But for now, I'm pretty content with the Switch, and I don't mind riding it out a little bit longer. But you know what? I'm just one guy. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments below. So yeah, there you go. I'll have more reports, of course, on the Switch 2 as we get them. Although my plan is to not have nearly as many news updates as we did before. I'll cover the big stuff still, and in some form at least, and that includes any major Switch 2 reports. This one's gathering some steam, so I figured we'd cover it because it is kind of big news, especially if it ends up being true, which I buy at this point. I've not heard anything myself that contradicts anything here, and with Chris speaking to multiple, developers, it's sounding like there's almost no way it's going to hit before March, just because they need to know. They're going to have to know to have those games ready. But yeah, so my plan is to keep updating you guys with any big news. Otherwise, we will be having fewer news updates here on the channel, but they will be in a more of a casual discussion type form like this. So let me know what you think of this, because I'm still figuring things out. It's going to be a rolling kind of content plan as I finalize some of the larger things I'm working on, which I'm excited to get out there. So yeah, let me know what you think of these more casual updates, because I'm still figuring everything else out as I'm focused on longer, bigger projects at the same time. But basically, we'll have fewer news updates, but we'll still cover the bigger stuff as needed. On that note, everyone, thanks for watching. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll catch you later. Bye.